For plebs, by plebs, dropping the Bitcoin-only signal. Pleb Underground. Welcome everyone to the Pleb Underground.
Pleb Underground, it's EP90. We're back this week after a trip to Oslo. Hugging a kiss, not just for show, she greets me like she's from UTXO. HRF held up a world mirror, but it was me that was reflective on all these stories. See through their eyes perspective. We love our families, we call them pour one out when they ain't no second more. Multisig Maxi, geographically distributed quorum, feeling too human from the Freedom Forum. Am I a journalist? I don't discriminate against writing. Privacy is not a joke, and yet they're inviting themselves to uncover a mystery. But it's fiat, not jaff. We want to be history. It's disgusting how they're mockingly when they put up knock knock knocking bee. It's amazing how we're deceived that living just is. Perhaps you're relieved of life's injustice. Months pass, you pay subs while you pretend you're addiction freedom. Algorithms reduce the friction rubs. Us the wrong way, can't write CD-ROM. Activists persistent, each with aplomb. Can't stop going till we drop the B-bomb. This one is for the activist. Put on the make inactive list. Executed for an active wrist. Spoke his mind. Deemed unattractive. Missed. Out of this world stories, but not based on Mars. Cut through the disinformation pandemic that's been on since SARS. New talk, state of mind, feel each beat like Nas. When you speak out against tyranny, then the state tars. You as a terrorist, smokes your loved ones like cigars, but there's no smoke without fire, the innocent chars. Their heart that burns with desire for peace from the SARS, but they sentenced him to death so he's no longer behind his bars. Privacy is a right, a need, can't be choosy. An individual can ask and find who's he, but don't dox or his future bluesy. We're here to chop it up with the centrist Susie.
Straight fire, Walton. That's right, everybody. Welcome back. It is the Pleb Underground. Joining us today, very special guest. We've got the co-founder, director, head of mining and sustainability at BitcoinPolicyUK and Bitcoin journalist, Susie Violet Ward. Susie, thank you so much for joining us on Pleb Underground. It's an absolute honor to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Sweet.
So I've known Susie for a little while, and I invited her on the show. I think about a year ago, and so it's there's been a slight delay there, but she was at the Oslo Freedom Forum like I was this week. I'm sure obvious from my rhyme that it was an interesting conference to say the least.
It sounds like you had a good time.
Yeah, it was eye-opening. I'm sure we're going to talk more about it in a little bit. But first we have the numbers, Phil.
That's right. That's right. We are going to move it on over to the numbers.
The numbers brought to us by Time Chain Stats and Time Chain Calendar. Phil, what do the numbers look like this week?
At the time of this recording, the block height is 846,920. The Bitcoin fiat exchange, 70,323. Total public lightning capacity, 5,022 Bitcoin. That's right, guys. We're back above 5K on that total public lightning capacity. Anyways, fastest fee. I heard that this is because of some serious big consolidations. I heard that this is not the JPEGers. 476 sats per VByte. Moscow time 1422. I wonder if 1422 was a good year. I don't think it was. I feel like a lot of those years were very bad for a lot of people. Anyways, those are the numbers. That's what we're looking at today, guys. Everybody's bored at 70K. I still see people fighting and stuff, and like nobody cares.
Phil, one thing I care about is screen sharing. So please, can you enable it? And then I'll 3, 2, 1 it. No, you didn't.
I did.
Well, unless you did it during that little bit there, you definitely.
It's been enabled the whole time.
That's weird because I tried before and I couldn't.
That's the second time that happened.
Interesting. That's weird,
dude. Right, I have been on lately.
Well, as they say, don't trust, verify.
That's right.
Yeah. So the numbers, right?
And you did too.
Look, we've got a 69, and then the 420 is like split. The 69 is in the middle of a 420 here on the block height. I think the numbers are good. Is it crazy that like almost 94% of Bitcoin that will ever exist has already been mined? Almost 94%.
Yeah.
and then it takes what, like over 100 years to get the last 6.
Really crazy.
I mean, yeah, I think the numbers are kind of uneventful, but I feel like we're kind of pumping. I feel like we've been coiling, like the price has been coiling for a while, and it's now pumping. I believe we did hit 71 again, unless I'm mistaken.
Susie, do you spend your time focused on the numbers?
I don't care about the numbers, but I do. I was on a chat today where someone said that they would suck dick if it reached 72,000.
I mean, that's lovely. I mean, like, one number I'd like to share, apparently last year marked 2 decades of global democratic decline, and now today there's 72% of the world's population living under authoritarianism in close to 100 countries. Those are some nice jolly numbers, right? Like, this week was eye-opening. Like, my rhyme was heavily influenced by the story of a guy called Tumaj Salehi, who's an Iranian rapper. But the I don't know. To me, this week reminded me that Bitcoin is a freedom technology, but it's one that has a different time preference, and that's a good thing, right? In many respects, like we talk about low time preference being a good thing, but it also means the pace at which it can enact change is also slow. And Bitcoin is a phenomenal technology for freedom, but it doesn't, and yes, it can help people, now and today. You're trying to fundraise, trying to send value across the world to help people in need. Sure. But there's also many people who are working to try and enact change in a number of different ways with a higher time preference. I think sometimes in Bitcoin, I think we think we're fixing the world, and it maybe we are, but not here and now. We're trying to fix the future. There's a lot of other people out there trying to fix the now, and I think we should be doing more to talk to those people, more to mix with those people, because they are likelier, I think, adopters of Bitcoin because we're allies in trying to help people and actually like make the world a better place. To not go all hippie on everyone, but yeah.
Well, another statistic that they showed was that 9 out of 10 countries on the globe are under authoritarian rule of some variety. I think they included India in that. Even
they were saying like half, according to this. They're saying like 100 countries. Like there's about 200 countries in the world, but maybe yeah, I don't know. It's a relative thing, right? There definitely was like a kind of NATO bias when it came to the politics of some of the production, but I asked the question afterwards. I'm thinking, wait, is this just a psyop? So, like, the authoritarianism that there is that's in the West that's slightly more mild is more accepted because we go, oh, well, it could be worse.
Yeah, it definitely could be.
Is that I don't know. I don't think it's deliberate. Like, I think they're just trying to like show the work that people are doing. Do I question where HRF gets all its money from? Maybe. Did they put on a good conference? I think so.
I mean, the Freedom the Freedom Forum is, to my knowledge, a really good conference. I think I might be confusing it possibly with one from 2 years ago, but I remember that there was a whole lot of Bitcoiners that went there.
This is every year, I believe.
Yeah,
so right? They moved it. They moved it to the US during COVID, and then they moved it back to Oslo because they couldn't have it, basically.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, it's a whole bunch of people, right, from all different disciplines that are all coming together to discuss, let's be honest, right, incredibly uncomfortable types of topics, right? Because freedom is it's a very slippery slope, and we often have
lots of journalists, lots of activists, yeah.
But also coders, right? There's like, I'm pretty sure there's also like people from the security industry and stuff like that, right? Not OPSEC, but like Security Plus, like for networks and whatnot. So you've got all these different minds coming together, and it's very interesting what ends up coming out of those forums. All right, guys, we've got a retweet from fellow Bitcoiner and pleb doing God's work, I think, out there in the mining space at Hodl Tarantula. That's right. When they say gradually, then suddenly, this is what they mean. And this is the Bitcoin versus the internet adoption, okay? And we are like right here. And as you can see, Bitcoin is growing faster than the internet. Very bullish. So I remember there was all of a sudden, like when it came to the internet, something happened. DSL, right? And cable internet became mainstream, and all of a sudden, everything changed.
It kind of makes sense though. Like, how fast did like electricity spread, for example, like versus the internet? Like, I think it's in general, like these things catalyze the adoption of future technologies, and so therefore the pace increases.
Absolutely. All right, here let's make fun of Craig Wright. Let's make fun of Craig Wright for a second. Special number 500. That's right. Tweet from Digital Knot. 500 posts about Wright creating Bitcoin were purged recently.
Oh, I thought you were going to say 500 times is the number of times that like he's actually like committed fraud or something like that.
It's more than that.
Oh God, I can't believe
in a provable manner, maybe also.
I really can't. I find it fascinating that this story with him still has legs, and that this cosplayer is still, even after all of this, is somehow still cosplaying. I don't know.
Through the trial, the one before, not the one today, and I was really shocked. They have binders like this of pages and pages of forgeries, and they're reading them out and asking him with the forensic scientists and their reports, and he just says, "No, you're wrong. The experts are wrong." The funniest one that I heard was he made some notes on a pad apparently 2 years before the white paper came out, and that was his musings on what the white paper should look like. But the pad hadn't been created until 2011, and they managed to prove that. But do you know what he said? He said that they were wrong.
I had a special relationship with the manufacturer of this notepad. I got in early.
Really close. His family used to work for Staples.
I mean,
but
really?
That's what the whole 5 weeks was like. Or the cross-examination when he was doing it. That's what the whole thing was like.
What about the what about also? I remember the Lego Batmobile, right? Like he essentially explained to some person how blockchains, essentially how blockchains work with the Lego Batmobile. This was part of his defense, and this person actually came up and testified that. I don't understand how somebody stands in front of other human beings and says these stories. I don't know.
He just so said stupid. He has to be Satoshi because I saw him dressed as a ninja surrounded by computers.
That one too. I love the ninja story. I love the ninja story. That's also one of my favorite ones too. The ninja, the Lego story. I mean, all of this stuff, the scribblings. It's so good. It almost seems surreal, right? Like you just can't believe, because you yourself think to yourself, I know that if I'd said this stuff, I'd be a scammer, and I feel like everyone would know, and yet this guy has zero self-awareness. It's cringy stuff. Anyways, that's the special number 500. That's right, guys. He is deleting tweets, but also at the same time, somehow he released one video today claiming that he is Satoshi. So anyways, that is going to wrap up the numbers, and we're going to move it on over to the Fireside Chat. The Fireside Chat is brought to you by Proof of Ink. Check them out at proofofink.com. Absolutely awesome threads. That's right. They make our Pleb Underground clothes. And guys, we have a new addition. That's right. New addition to the Pleb Underground clothing. We've got the Fuck Shitcoins t-shirt inspired by Walton, of course, right? So you got your Fuck Shitcoins on the front, and you have your Rube Goldberg machine on the back. That's right, the self-operating.
I didn't even know about this till like 5 minutes ago.
That's right. Hey, we just got it up this week. Anyways, I'm going to have to be ordering one. And guys, don't forget to use the code Pleb Underground for 5.8% off all your purchases at proofofink.com.
Welcome back to the Fireside Chat. This week we have Decentral Suze, who may be a spook, but certainly is a journalist, and likes to write and talk about Bitcoin. I first met Susie about a year ago, where she was trying to convince everyone at the beach retreat that Bitcoin was gonna save every family in the country, and I admired the passion, even if I felt maybe there was some naivete at the time. Nonetheless, Susie has been appearing more and more on national television, and writing articles for Forbes. I first saw her on a clip on television where she was denouncing CBDCs, and the attack on freedom that they are. Welcome to the show, Susie. Phil always likes to hear people's orange pill story, but yeah. So why don't we start with that? Go on. But then,
Walton was going to make fun of me there for a second.
Maybe
like,
no. It was more like I was going to switch it up. But I think let's do that first, and then I'm sure I'll have a question at some point. But yeah, how did you get into Bitcoin, Susie? Phil just has to know.
No, we've got fuck shit coins there, and I wanted to buy some Dogecoin. So, and the way I had to buy Dogecoin was I had to get an Exodus wallet, buy Bitcoin, and then swap it into Doge. So that's how. I was just really, really curious as to I didn't understand any of it. I just wanted to know.
But what was the fascination? What was okay, so hold on a second. Let's back up. That is by far the shortest rabbit hole story I ever that reminds me of like
talk. It's not like Susie likes to cut things down. She doesn't normally summarize this. She'll be like, well, in 1974, like I don't know, like there'll be some like.
Why did you want Doge though? Why didn't you just want Bitcoin?
I didn't know.
Who convinced you to buy it?
But this was a few years ago when I
was it the Financial Times?
What year?
Like early.
No, I'm just joking because they hate Bitcoin, but
yeah, I know. Have you seen Bitcoin Perception actually, and all the neutral, positive and negative press about Bitcoin? That's really good, and it has all the different financial papers or all the different papers and how many articles they've published on Bitcoin and how many have been neutral, good and negative, and the Daily Mail have never put anything positive about Bitcoin out there ever.
That is actually very interesting.
Bitcoin Perception.
Yeah, you can find him on Twitter.
Oh, I'm good. It switched to night mode. It's like it knew that I want. How does it know? I don't know. All right, so there's some tweets about it, but so wait, how do you find out? Do you have to sign up though to get the data?
You shouldn't have to. I mean, you can look him up on Twitter and
hey Phil, that's your wording. You said it's cosplay. Cosplay gone too far. Yeah.
Gone too far.
But hey,
they're listening to us. See, what's really happening is all of these major news outlets, they actually secretly tune into Pleb Underground. That's really what's happening.
That's kind of interesting. So you can see like how the like perceptions.
Oh my gosh.
Daily, but it'd be interesting to see like be able to like change the time. You know, in the same way that you can zoom in and out on a price chart, to be able to do that on this sort of data would be good.
So what's very interesting is take a look at January 19th, 2024. That is like the peak of negative. That's very interesting, right? Because if you think about it right now,
the price do over those couple days, though?
It's like the rosiest picture, right, of Bitcoin. I mean, think about the timing, right? The ETFs had just come out in the US 8 days before that. They began trading.
Maybe, did the price dump that day just for one day? I don't know.
I don't know.
Like, it's the kind of thing, you know what I mean? Like, price probably is a big driver of reporting sentiment, at least.
I'm pointing at the screen. You can't see where I'm pointing, but
sorry, where do you want me to go, Susie?
At BTC Perception, the Twitter account.
These guys.
Yeah.
Let's have a look here.
All right, I'm going to follow these guys. Yeah, do you see that Jack Dorsey doxing story? That is absolutely horrible, right? They just had to they had to dox Fiat Jaff. Right? Let's not make it about the incredible thing that's happening. Let's just make it a stupid dox story and about right and left and fascism and all this crap. I hate that.
I said it's Fiat, not Jaff, that we want history. Like,
I'm sorry?
I said in my rhyme that it's Fiat, not Jaff, that we want history.
Yeah, I noticed that you did that play on words. That was absolutely fantastic. Okay, so Susie, we got to get back to our guest, okay? Because she had the rabbit hole story of like 12 seconds where boom, I buy Doge and this is what happened. Okay, so moving on from there, because you're doing some pretty incredible stuff right now, right? As co-founder and director of the head of mining and sustainability at Bitcoin Policy UK. So let me ask you this: if you can summarize, what exactly is that, and what are your goals with that organization?
So we noticed that all the we have groups of people that discuss various different things and then go to Parliament, and they're called APPGs. And we noticed that the APPGs were all being gatekept by shitcoin companies, and specifically a company called Crypto UK. And when you looked at Crypto UK, they were all being funded by Ripple, Circle. It was like a team from hell when you looked at it, but there was no Bitcoin representation there at all. So we tried to get in contact with the head of the crypto APPG, and it was just being gatekept. We couldn't get through. And considering Bitcoin's got a 50% dominance, it was really peculiar how there was no mention of Bitcoin at all. And so we just thought, right, okay, Bitcoin will do its thing. We know this. It's going to win. We know. But we want some sensible regulation in the UK. And I don't want the UK to get left behind and overtaken by shitcoin companies. So what we thought we would do is create an organisation that could be that point where if people need information or we can educate, then we can help, but only for Bitcoin.
So let me ask you this: is Crypto UK, are they a hindrance to Bitcoin Policy UK, or do they play nice? Like, are you guys working together, or is it just simply separate roads kind of thing?
I think it's separate roads. Freddie is the head of policy, and he is much better at this than me. I'm not very diplomatic, and if I can see someone's just not doing their job properly, I will just cut them out. But he's a lot better at being diplomatic. Tact and diplomacy are not my strong points at all. So he's the head of policy. He liaises with those people. I deal more with trying to find solutions as to why we have only 0.23% of the hash rate in the UK, and trying to find
because we have terrible energy prices, right?
Yeah, but it's not just energy prices though. I mean, we've got terrible grid policy, and they don't understand how it can help demand response, and they just don't see what the benefits are. They haven't got a clue. And another problem that we've got is everything in the UK when it comes to the national grid is driving towards using less electricity. So everything that I read about the electricity in the grid and all that kind of malarkey, they just want to find ways to reduce. But we know that that's not going to be the case in the future. We have to find ways of having more dense energy so that we can just the only way we're going to survive and progress as a human race is not if we use less, and trying to get that across to them as well. So when they look and they're ready to find the answers, we just want to be there to provide the right kind of information. Because I go to a lot of these events in London, and I do go to a lot of Web3 events just to see what's going on. I mean, it can be quite draining, obviously, because I don't really want to be there. But the CBDC events that I go to, I've been taken off twice. They've cancelled my tickets twice. And then I had a little chat with them on the second time that they cancelled it. And they said, the reason why we've cancelled your ticket, first of all, we didn't even want you coming, so we took you off the mailing list. How did you get the invite? And I'm like, not saying. And then the second thing they wanted to say is that they'd had complaints about me because I wasn't balanced enough, and that's how they justified removing me. Yeah.
So but let's be honest, right? What does balanced enough means? Balanced enough simply means being a supporter of a CBDC. That's really all that balanced means, right? It doesn't mean being objective and having your own take. It means having their take, I believe.
These guys are very poor. They don't understand the technologies, and they know that I ask them questions that they can't answer.
Mm.
And they have, there's nothing there. These people are presenting themselves as an authority. They're an organization that have just spun themselves up. They're being funded by Ripple. They are presenting themselves to government as the people with all the answers. They produce pamphlets, educational pamphlets, and they'll have things in there. What's a blockchain?
Propaganda, you mean?
Pardon?
Propaganda, you mean? Not educational pamphlets.
Okay, but no, but some of it's correct. Some of it is correct. But when they start talking
That's how you do
about
propaganda.
a blockchain being a decentralized network, then obviously I start to get a little bit twitchy, and so there are some inaccuracies in there. But a recent article that I wrote was proving that a lot of the shitcoin companies are funding their own research, which is influencing European policy. So this is another thing that we have to keep an eye on, is that they're tricky little buggers, and they'll do whatever it takes to try and talk to these policymakers who understand absolutely nothing and just bamboozle them with reports and bullshit that they've funded just to say, yeah, proof of stake is good, proof of work is bad. And so that's why we have to keep them in check.
Very interesting. Sorry, as you were talking about that, I was just, I'm like, this is super interesting way of essentially getting involved, right, with this, like with this whole thing, but also being able to have a bit of a different angle, because even though you do Bitcoin policy, you're also a journalist, right? So let me ask you, I guess, let me ask you this. How do those two intersect for you, or yeah?
So because I'm the head of mining and sustainability,
Mm-hmm.
my favorite type of article to write are Bitcoin mining articles, because the innovation that's happening globally is absolutely mind-blowing. So they are mining off geothermal. As we know, they're mining from ocean thermal. They've got all these incredible solutions that are making companies more viable. So if you've got stranded energy, you can create an additional revenue stream. It's more likely to make your company a lot more viable just generally. So Bitcoin mining is actually the answer to building out renewables. And so when it comes to writing, I love that more than anything. I love trying to correct all the damage that De Vries has done. And the BBC article on the do you know what that
Susie, what I'm assuming you've heard of Brandolini's law. How do you feel like that affects you as a journalist when you talk about kind of combating the bullshit? Like, is it not an impossible task? Like,
yes. And I've written about that as well. I have, because Margot, who we were talking about at the conference. So she wrote a report that completely ripped apart the UN Bitcoin mining study and debunked every single figure and line and assumption that they had in that report. And she called it the asymmetry of bullshit, Brandolini's law. So she actually called her report that because this was a UN study that came out, and she disproved all of it. So I've actually written an article on that very subject.
You're talking about Margot Paez, I believe. Yeah. Okay. I'll put a link to her account.
Also known as Jin Urso, the
Jin
Bitcoin
Urso.
environmentalist.
Yep.
I was just thinking that how much misinformation. Thinking about misinformation, like I occasionally look at, there's a good little data set showing about the energy mix for the UK, and I quite like looking at it, because I don't know why I like charts and things like this, and I feel like right now you always hear a lot of misinformation about I don't know, about how much fossil fuels are being used, and I look at this chart and I go, kind of looks like there's not that much. All time, yeah, fossil fuels are the dominant one, but you go, hey, wait a sec, this is for the UK, by the way. Past year, renewables in total is almost 40%. The past week is half renewables, but you almost get the impression that it's 10% renewables or less or something. Unfortunately, England is very windy, and so a lot of our energy comes from wind power. But then you look at prices, right? It's interesting. Prices seemingly are slightly falling. Over time, they're definitely increasing, though. Minus this little blip here that was COVID, when and the Ukraine war, right? Yeah.
Have they
Um,
got anything in there on curtailment?
what's curtailment? Sorry, Susie.
So the problem with renewables is it's intermittent. So the wind
Correct.
isn't always blowing and the sun isn't always shining.
Correct.
But
So if you look at like the past day, you can see like that certain like the price is going to change over time, and like the emissions and the demand and the generation are going to change over time. So you look at wind here, you can see that wind it's a bit more windy apparently overnight last night than it was overnight the night before.
and that's the perfect example because if they're generating electricity and they've got lots of it at
Sorry,
night,
during the day today. Sorry, rather than during the day yesterday. My
right?
apologies.
But even so, it's not always. They have to build out grids for maximum demand, so they always have to operate that it's going to be the absolute max, which means that there's always a lot of wasted energy because not everybody's using it all the time, and so that's what curtailment is. They switch off. So they pay to switch off. And I think last year they paid, or the year before, they paid National Grid paid £250 million to switch off their renewables. So when you see the turbines not spinning, what they could do is keep it running, mine Bitcoin, and make it more viable to lower customer costs, but they don't. They pay money, which the consumer has to pay for, to curtail. And Bitcoin
This
fixes it.
sounds incredibly inefficient and stupid. Who does this? So hold on a second, though. We'll understand quickly. Who does that behavior? Who does it benefit? That they have to pay. Like, who are they paying that $250 million to?
I don't know. I think it's just how much it costs.
It's just what it costs. So it's like I think it's the people. Like I mean, I'd be looking at the organizations that are getting paid for that action, and I'd be very curious and wondering, like maybe they're pushing the policy in that direction or trying to keep it that way. I don't know. It just seems strange, right?
Well, they could fix it and
Yeah.
make money, and so
It's like, why not?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Why not?
Yeah, I think they should be a Bitcoin miner at the bottom of every single one of the turbines.
Turbines, yeah.
If you fitted one in, it should be a standard part of it. And then it would be generating revenue, and then it would be lowering customer prices, and you never have to switch it off. It's a beautiful thing, but trying to explain that to the national grid when their mindset is to try and use less energy, you're not good. I just can't break those barriers down yet.
Yeah, this is definitely not incentives that are working for people. Instead, it is working for a very small group of people. Right, like that's what I see. But I just want to switch gears a bit because from what I understood, what I read in your profile, you're contributing journalist to Forbes UK. Is that correct?
Well,
or is it just Forbes? It's just Forbes. Okay, yeah. So let me ask you this, because I am curious about this. We spoke a little bit about this before the show. Do they ever, because it's a mainstream media outlet, and I know that mainstream media, on the most part, frames Bitcoin in a specific way. You, as a contributing journalist, have you ever been told, or can you share that? Have you ever been told to frame your articles in a certain way that paint Bitcoin in a negative light specifically?
No, I've got a fantastic editor, and if I've got something to say and I'm finding a tricky way of saying it, that she'll talk me through the best way to do it. But that's all that she does, and it's only if I ask her, providing I can back up what I say, and it's all provable with a credible source. I can write what I like, and I'm not told what to do. It just has to be in my swim lane.
That's good to know. That's good to know, because I do know that, at least from a Bitcoiner's perspective, right? Many Bitcoiners are tinfoil hatters, right? You've got the fringes of society that essentially joined Bitcoin very early on, because it is a fringe technology to a certain extent. Yes, that's right. I still think we're early, and as a result, you get people that are very mistrusting, right? And rightfully so, right? Mistrusting of the system, mistrusting of corporations, mistrusting of journalists, mistrusting of journalism in general, right? And those media outlets. So I think that's I think that's interesting. Because I myself believed the opposite, right? I believe that regardless whether, contributing journalist or not, in my eyes, it's like it's their company. So we're going to tell you what to say, so that is refreshing.
I think it can happen. So if going back to that BTC perception thing, it will have all the journalists on there and how balanced they are, negative, blah, 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 blah. So it will even be down to, you could even find me on that list if you go and have a look, and you'll be able to see what I say. Usually I'm either balanced or positive. I don't often say anything negative. I think there's plenty of people out there saying negative stuff about Bitcoin. But I have looked at the top kind of 5 journalists in that list, and I've gone and found them on LinkedIn, and they've got no tech experience. They are just writers. So I think the big problem is we know how many hours it takes to understand Bitcoin. It's hundreds, if not thousands, and you almost live, breathe, sleep. It's in your brain all the time, isn't it? You're always thinking about it. But those journalists, those traditional journalists, are only writers. They just get told, this is your subject, go and look, and then they'll obviously look on the internet, rip something off that's already been published, and they won't actually go out and talk to people or find out what's going on. And even if they did, they wouldn't understand the answers that they got. So I think that that's a huge part of the problem.
Very interesting, right? And
I don't think
I once had like a little fight with some Bloomberg writer in a Spaces where I accused the system of being hacked, and she wouldn't allow the concept that essentially if you have she was saying that they have a policy that they write based on the what their viewers will read, and so like if certain articles are getting more data, then they're going to write more about those sort of topics. And I said this system can be hacked because the shitcoins can pay the shitcoin influencers to drive people to those articles, and thereby drive more reporting of those stories, and so that these network effects essentially can be hacked. But I think a lot of people don't understand data. A lot of people don't like to think that their systems can be manipulated. But I'm sure that's exactly what's happening right now. And it's I don't know how you combat it.
Well, the way that you combat it is that you have to be mindful of the fact that you've got to push against the fiat system to break the fiat system. So it happens to me. I know exactly what you're saying. If I get over a certain amount of page views, I get paid extra, and for every hit that I get. And I know if I write a number go up article, it will just go bonkers. But the one that I've interviewed 3 people, spent ages thinking about it, spent ages writing about it, say for example, the convergence of Bitcoin and psychedelics, that took me days to write, like consolidated time. Like it took me a long time, and I knew it wouldn't have the page views that what's the Bitcoin price going to do in 2024, but it was more meaningful. And so therefore you have to push against that fiat structure to be able to but that's because I believe in it. It's because for me it's a belief system. But I don't know if other journalists being told what to write would feel the same way. So I choose to make myself a lot poorer to be able to do the good stuff, but I am incentivized not to, essentially.
I really appreciate you sharing that, because that is true, and you can see it. You can see it even in this space, right? Like
same is true in Bitcoin. Exchanges want to pay people and like control what gets said because Hopium drives exchange fees essentially. Yeah, we could be a lot richer too if we took their money. So we completely understand.
That's like when
no exchanges, no shitcoins, no custodians.
Right, and it makes it a lot harder, and we all appreciate that. So I went to a conference that I thought was a Bitcoin conference called Bitcoin Unleashed. That's why I thought it was a Bitcoin conference. When I went there, it turned out to be a Stacks conference, and they were talking about.
I was about to guess Stacks.
Yeah, for sure. Stacks are root
It's
stock.
the one shitcoin that is actually a registered security, and they decided to actually like hedge their risk from a legal perspective.
Yeah, they don't want to go to jail while they dump their bags.
They believe that they're to scale. Look, listen, I'm just
you know.
right. They think they think
Continue, sorry.
They think to scale to 8 billion people that we have to have layer 2 solutions, and I do understand that, and I don't know what is good. I can't work all those other side chains. It's too much. There's like about 30,000 of them. But the point is that
let's play a game. Can you guess who their number one speaker is?
Is it Rizzo?
No. Come on, for a shitcoin conference. Come on. Or shitcoin conference pretending to be a Bitcoin conference.
He was there.
Oh, he might have been. It just amused me, like who the first one is.
Jameson, no.
I mean,
Phil, you want to guess?
I would assume if it's Stacks, I would assume it's Munib.
Yeah. So he's number 2, but after someone who's also on the board, who I didn't even know is on the board. But who's involved in who has tentacles in all the shitcoinery?
What do you mean? The guy with the small face.
Oh no, it's the female version, right? It's Meltem.
Okay.
It's always a good red flag when Meltem's on the board.
Oh
dude,
yeah,
right?
you know that this is some quality shitcoining when Meltem is there. That is fantastic. I'm sorry, but her actions are the definition of the pro Bitcoin wolf in sheep's clothing. Okay, I didn't even realize she was on the board.
They had some good Bitcoin speakers. They had a couple of kind of mining kind of guys there. Charlie Spears, Will Foxley.
The thing is, if they don't turn up to these conferences and talk, then there is no actual Bitcoin representation there. So they have to.
Right, this is an interesting one, right? Should Bitcoiners go and talk at shitcoin conferences?
Yes.
I'm kind of of the opinion that yes, they should, because you want to try and dilute the shitcoiner, right? We want to increase the Bitcoin talk dominance at shitcoin conferences. Yes. Should we let them come and speak at our conferences? No. But should we go and talk at their conferences? Probably yes.
I do. That's what I do.
And that's why we're on Twitter.
Yeah. That's what I mean. I go up to London and I go to these events and I just see what's going on. And I even went to a BSV conference a couple of weeks ago, and I saw the entire con. It was quite amazing, actually. I couldn't believe it. I actually saw how the whole thing was just smoke and mirrors. Because before the event, they were trying to get people to come in the door, so they were literally giving out these £400 tickets to anybody who would be willing to give up their time. And then it's obviously all flashy. You've got Air Ventures and you've got N-Chain, all bright lights, loads of colours, really super flashy, free tea and coffee, loads of talks, but no substance. I mean, there was one. I've got my notebook here because I had all my Oslo notes in it. I was there was one.
Susie, can we? I'm sorry to switch it up, but I feel like I kind of don't care about Craig anymore, and I want to know because you wrote an article recently about Millet, right? I want to talk about Argentina briefly before we move it on to the next section. I think we should talk Argentina. Go on, Susie.
They wanted to create, and I wanted to find the exact word. They wanted to create a universal blockchain integrator, so that you can basically, every single chain can talk to each other. And this is the type of shit that they are saying on stage, as if it's a reality and as if it's possible. This is the type of bullshit that they are putting into people's heads at these conferences. There is no substance to them. The people that are there are not real because they're not real BSV supporters. The money is all from a billionaire to make it look flashy. And then the people that are on stage are just talking nonsense. That's what I'm saying. But you need to see it to believe it. But
I really appreciate you explaining that. This is definitely some good insight.
What was the next question? Oh,
yeah,
Millet.
Walton. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Well,
Argentina.
Argentina.
So, like, I've said when the Argentina thing happened, I suspected it was a shitcoin. But apparently, you did an article recently where you're saying, yeah, it was a shitcoin. It was he's not really that into Bitcoin. He just said some good words. Is that a fair statement?
Not really, no. Like he does understand Bitcoin, and I think on a personal level he is pro Bitcoin. And he understands that central banks are bad and that all of the corruption in Argentina is what's leading to the hyperinflation, the poverty. So he gets all the problems and he sees it as we do. That said, there are many meetings that he has gone to where Bitcoin Twitter has been saying Milei is going to take him onto a Bitcoin standard, but he has never
Yes.
mentioned Bitcoin once in these meetings. It's just that he wants the freedom to transact, and that has been taken completely out of context. You can't even buy crypto in Argentina on exchanges. They're more likely to follow the IMF and the FATF rules than they are to go onto a Bitcoin standard.
I gotta tell you, based on the noise on Twitter, you would think, specifically Bitcoin Twitter, you would think that Bitcoin and Argentina are imminent. Okay? You would, based on the Hopium. Okay? So I appreciate you providing this balanced, like more realistic take. And I think that it's very important. And unfortunately, though, those types of takes, like you were indicating before, they don't get the clicks. They don't get the clicks, they don't get the views, right? You just all it is, it's just about selling the sizzle. You know what I mean? Like that's what it is. So yeah, I'm definitely I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised by that. But I'm sure a lot of Bitcoiners are going to be pretty disappointed. And this is why we say metaphorically, do not slay your heroes, right? Metaphorically slay your heroes, because all of this stuff, this is just short-term noise to make news. So yeah. Anyways, so Susie, we're gonna wrap up the fireside chat, and we're gonna move it on over to Hopium. But before we do, how can the viewers get in touch with you, and where can they find you?
I think actually we're going to REKT next, Phil. Hopium is usually last.
Oh, okay, fine. All right, yeah, okay, we'll do REKT next then. Thank you. So where can they find your stuff?
All right. Did you want to say that a bit again, or did you want me to?
Oh no.
Okay.
Yeah. We don't cut this stuff out.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. Cool. Just Twitter. Yeah, it's got my Forbes articles in the in the profile. You can find all the interesting stuff there, and I tweet everything that I publish. So yeah, that's the best place.
Absolutely awesome. All right, guys, that's going to be in the show notes. That wraps up the fireside chat, and we are going to move it on over to REKT.
Up next, we have REKT, sponsored by BTC Pins. Use the code PLEB at BTC Pins. You can get 5% discount on all of the pins. They make some phenomenal collaborations with various Bitcoin communities and brands. Very, very high quality made pins. We're going to do something different this week. I'm currently wearing 7 pins made by BTC Pins. And I'd like the guest to try and guess which pins these are. Can you spot the 7? I will come closer if you need me to, but I have one just here, and then 6 on the hat.
Oh, we see them.
So this one was a special one. Ahmed Get the Stones. This was a meme back where people on Twitter would essentially put a rock down to signify their disapproval of the behavior that was being demonstrated, or the word someone used. And then I'm wearing 6 on my hat. Okay. In the middle, obviously, we have the PlebUnderground pin. Over on this side. Any idea? This is my favorite Lightning wallet.
I don't know. Who is it?
Phil, we can't hear you.
It's Zeus, LN.
Zeus, yeah, very good. Up top, you see the meme tards pin. This is I think the most talented memers on Twitter. No One Tell Meme Factory. Here we have 58K Gang, another very talented crew. Over here, Time Chain Calendar. Up here,
It looks like
Susie? Honey Badger, beautiful. BTPins.com. Welcome back to REKT. We have a few stories. The first story, I believe Phil did a clip about this a few days ago, but there was a Japanese server hacked, and over 4,500 Bitcoin were lost. Over $300 million in value today. What happened? Let's investigate. So they just did, a whole bunch of like 500 Bitcoin outputs, paying a total of 0.1 Bitcoin in fees, which is quite a lot actually. He says absurdly high. It feels kind of silly, but like I don't know, if you're moving $300 million of Bitcoin, and you're paying 0.1, what's that, $7,000? Like that's seems like a pretty decent deal. So where are they going?
Where are they going?
Who knows? But I don't actually care. What I do care about is why. Something called address poisoning. The theft output, the address that the Bitcoin actually the address that it actually went to had the same first 5 characters and same last 2 characters as the real withdrawal address, and the dust output again like had a bunch of characters matching. So like, how can you have like a poison withdrawal to have like such like close addresses? Apparently, one way that this can happen is if you gain access to one of the keys, you can craft a consolidation to a confusingly similar address outside of the wallet and send it on to another key holder for their approval. And then you hope they don't actually compare the actual destination with the real whitelist of safe addresses perfectly before signing the transactions. But then this leaves some obvious questions, like how did this attack even get access to one key, and then like how do they know like who to send this transaction to? It's an very interesting story to me. But I think this is a point. I feel like I've certainly done this before. Just check the few first characters and last few characters, please, guys. Check more of the characters.
I read the whole thing every time. Painfully, I read the whole entire thing every time.
Yeah,
and
I think I usually do
paste,
like the first and last third of it or something like that. Does that make sense? Like, I mean, maybe slightly better, but like, yeah, like don't do just like 3 characters each end. You're gonna get wrecked, guys. So you could more easily get wrecked. Susie, do you check your transactions sufficiently?
Obviously not. No, but I will. I will now.
That's right. See, that's. Like instantly, I just that story just bothers me, man, because so many, so much Bitcoin just gone. It's so painful. And for those of us who do not have 4,000 Bitcoin to lose, it's like, damn it.
I don't have enough to worry about. But...
Yeah, I know. But still, like you see that and you're like, I would hate to lose that because I didn't check the address fully. Like you think with 4,000 Bitcoin, right? You would just take the time to look at every character in that address.
Yeah,
I feel like I would.
Yeah, but I've never had that.
Yeah, I know.
So
it's not our problem.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Not our problem. But still, very good lesson. Very good lesson, Walton.
So another lesson is that like even if you're famous, you shouldn't shitcoin. And like I mean, we know about like Brady and Giselle, how they got wrecked, but I don't know how well you guys know the story of Steve Aoki. So as you know, Steve's a well-known DJ. Despite all his music success, he said he made more money from NFTs than from music royalties. How? Well, here's a few things. So apparently he bought his first NFT in 2021, and it was a CryptoPunk for 65 ETH. Less than a month later, he sold it for 235 ETH profit, which is around $1 million at the time.
I bought a CryptoPunk for 50 ETH. and this is July of last year. And then I put it up for bid, just like 300 ETH.
Yeah.
And then it sold in 21 days.
Now you're out.
Which is great. I mean, it's $1 million, you know. So I was like, oh my god, I bought a CryptoPunk for.
So $1 million in 21 days. And people, you know, of course, praising him. Steve was getting really excited about the future of NFTs, and so he started acquiring rare pieces. In his words, he became a collector.
Collector of JPEGs he doesn't own.
With all that profit, I just went and bought more NFTs because I'm such a believer in the space. I don't really care so much about the flip. I care about what it's going to mean when we really start rolling out what Web3 is, what the metaverse will look like, what Roblox 3.0 is.
Yep.
All these things. I think that like there's so much application that's going to be used.
The application.
With
the application, Phil, the application. So in the video, he said it talks about not caring about the flip. He just wants.
But
to
that was the main
art,
purpose
right?
of the. But that was the main purpose of the story. He doesn't care, but that's
right. And so then he started buying. I can't even read. I don't even understand what this says. Like shitcoins apparently can't read, and then I don't know. They just make up names that just like aren't even words or anything. Anyway, so he then spent like about over 215 ETH on some NFTs. That sounds like, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars. He's spending.
I'm a collector, so I went on Conex. I bought one for 20 ETH. I bought one Oni for 300, and like I don't know what the value is, like dropped, diminished.
Yeah,
a lot.
300 ETH, like before we were saying, was like over $1 million. So apparently Steve was ready for the next step, right? And so what happens is he becomes a founder and makes his own collection.
No way.
Of course.
My
Right.
project I dropped February of last year, Dreamcatcher. I mean the floor did drop after like everyone bought, because
Interesting.
It did really well. It was like the kind of surge. It would 4.3 million on that project, and it surged up, and then it just dropped.
dump.
Like all NFTs dropped.
Oh, all NFTs drop. Interesting, Steve. So all NFTs drop, huh? Huh, Steve? Is that true? So then apparently, what happened is he becomes invested and co-founded an NFT game called MetaZoo. I'm not even going to read it, but he then got the tattoo, right? He did the Novogratz. And then what happened? Bear market. Apparently his bags went down by 90%. He bought one NFT that was 164 ETH. He sold all 11 NFTs in total for just 5.8 ETH.
Even ETH went down in that time, so it's not even the number of ETH; it's actually the price of ETH. So we got
both,
Yes.
right? And this is the point. This is
what
the
they
point.
don't get.
This is exactly my point. You can be famous. You can have a platform where really you should be in a good position to pump and dump, and you still get wrecked.
They don't get it.
Like they don't get it.
They don't get it.
Don't worry about it. Honestly, he'll come over.
They don't get it, right? And then finally, this week we have the Wolf of Wall Street saying, "Hey,
nice.
can we scam in peace, or rather, dear toxic Bitcoin maxis, if you hate shitcoins, why don't you just ignore them? I'm quite sure that passionate Nvidia investors pay little mind to irrelevant penny stocks. None of these tokens are a threat to Bitcoin. Well, Nvidia investors are mostly like index funds and stuff, and like big funds. They're not actually individual people, because you can't custody your own equity and this sort of thing. Anyway." Why shouldn't we? Well, surely, Mr. Crypto Bro, you should understand that people are free market maxis in Bitcoin and in crypto. And if you're a free market maxi, then actually you shouldn't believe in regulation. You should believe in speaking out against the bullshit. So, shitcoiners, you need to make your mind up. Would you rather we speak out against it, or would you rather state comes after you? Unlucky, you get both. Cope.
Anyway,
yeah, Susie, I was going to say that's it for REKT, but I'd love to hear your opinions on the shitcoiners trying to propagandize us into letting them scam in peace.
It's a journey, but that wasn't what I was going to say. I was going to say that I think you can self-custody your own stocks if you get them on a piece of paper.
They don't give you stock certificates anymore. I used to buy. I don't know if it's the same in the UK, but I can tell you that in the States and in Canada, 100%, you no longer receive any stock certificates. Everything is digital. It's just in your account. You can request, obviously, a printed account statement at the end of each quarter, but that in no way constitutes, a binding contract, right? That you can go and redeem your share. Yeah, it's
like I used to have post office shares, and I would get 1 or 2 through the post, and I'd look after the certificate. I'd be like,
yeah.
Oh,
Me
they
too.
don't do that. Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
No, that's right. We will own nothing, and we will be happy. Apparently.
I never understood how they were going to do that, and I can see it now. Like all the subscription models and the fact that anyone can buy a house. It's actually playing out quite beautifully, isn't it?
People can't even afford so what's really, to your point, right? What's happening, and this is what's really frightening. I don't think I've seen it yet with food, but like, you know how you can do payment plans for everything?
Oh no, I've
now?
seen it with that. I've seen it with
You've
Uber
seen it with
Eats,
food?
dude. I've seen it with Uber Eats. Yeah.
That's, I mean, come on. Are you kidding me? People are like on a subscription model for food at this point. Like you have to make 4 easy payments to make your breakfast like your breakfast tab. That's insane.
Yeah, and it's coming in more and more. And going back to the Oslo Freedom Forum, where 72% of the world are under authoritarian regimes, they weren't always like that. It creeps in slowly until. I mean, the Russians walked into authoritarianism. They weren't always like that, were they? And that's what happens. And I can see the same thing happening here, or in the US.
Absolute power corrupts absolutely, and then especially you mix that with the ability to just simply print your own power. That's intoxicating, right? Like that's got to be intoxicating. Anyways. All right, Walton, that was absolutely awesome. Really appreciate the REKT segment. Guys, we are going to move it on over to the Hopium.
The Hopium.
Are you a pet rock enthusiast? I am a pet rock enthusiast. And for the fellow pet rock enthusiasts, we have, I think, the model piece for pet rocks. That's right. It is the Bitcoin Relo Triangle. 16 ounces of solid pet rock. No, it's 16 ounces of solid titanium, beautiful craftsmanship made by a fellow Bitcoiner. That is the Bitcoin Relo Triangle at CypherSafe.io. All right, guys, the Hopium. We've got some serious Hopium. I mean, by the end of this, you know that Bitcoin's going to $10 million. This is not financial advice, of course. All right, so here we go. Tweet from Zero Hedge. A lot of people covered this, but the Lagarde wearing the necklace which reads "in charge." You know why this is Hopium, guys? Because she is projecting, and she is having some serious Hopium. I'm sorry, but yes, no, not in charge. ECB not in charge. Anyways, moving on. Some serious Hopium. When you zoom out and look at Bitcoin, take a look, guys. Year-to-date performance of major asset classes. Who is on top? Bitcoin is. That's right. It's a tweet from @Sina_21st. Great account. Follow him for awesome charts and awesome data like this, guys. Year-to-date performance, 59.75%. So if you are holding Bitcoin this whole year, you're a happy camper. I mean, obviously, many of us have been holding Bitcoin for a lot longer, so we are happy campers as well, but this is just a fantastic chart that shows you really against the world's top assets. And Susie's got a camper van,
so she's a happy camper as well.
Boom! Look at that. She's got the camper van. So she is actually a happy camper, not just the metaphoric happy camper that I am or that Walton is. All right. Moving on, guys, because that's right. The Hopium's not done. The world is adopting Bitcoin. It's never ending. That's right. All right. So tweet from @JeffU. So today's bell ringing ceremony for Australia's first ETF licensed to hold Bitcoin directly, the monochrome Bitcoin ETF. That's right, guys. Proud to bring it to the market. True Bitcoin ETF product. Let's equalize the access. And there they are, very happy in Australia with their ETF product. And as you guys know, Pleb Underground, we don't give a shit about the ETFs because this is all paper Bitcoin. But we'd be fools if we didn't acknowledge the amount of attention that it continues to give Bitcoin, and you just can't beat our network effects. Sorry, not sorry. All right, last piece to the Hopium, guys. Another university. That's right. Last week, we reported on, Walton, I don't remember who it was that you said There was a university last week that
University of Austin, yeah, I had
thank
a
you, University of
Bitcoin
Austin, and they got a Bitcoin donation, right, from Unchained endowment. Thank you. Well, here we go, guys. This one from @TS_HODL. Marquette University professor Emeritus David Krause describes the Wisconsin pension system's $100 million purchase into a Bitcoin ETF and why the small purchase matters. So the governments, the institutions, everyone's coming to Bitcoin.
And last week it was $100,000. This week it's $100 million.
That's right. This week it's 100 million. So it's pumping. It's pumping. But guys, look, all of this is great news. All of this is wonderful. In Hopium, we're not trying to shit on this news. Of course not. What we are trying to do, though, is just give people a point of reference, right? This is all wonderful, but it does not move the needle on its own, okay? This is just near-term news, which is very good for Bitcoin. Anyways, I thought that was a lot of Hopium for the week. Susie, what are your thoughts on the Hopium before we go to Walton for his comments?
I just think it's game theory playing out beautifully.
Very well said. Very well said. Very simply said. Walton, your thoughts on the Hopium?
I mean, nothing changes really. Like, I feel like the real Hopium stories I get excited about are the technology and the people ones. I think often, like when it's about predictions of the future, it's usually price stuff. It's it's usually some sort of red herring, and I question the incentives. Yeah, I don't know. I'm very hopeful about people this week. Like there's a lot of people out there that care about people, and they're not all Bitcoiners. And I feel like sometimes it's easy to feel like Bitcoiners are the only people that care about the future and care about people, and actually are trying to positively build for the future, in an honest way.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's a very good point.
I'm feeling hopeful, even if I also, really felt some of the tougher stories that were shared this week.
Well, you know what? I think you make a good point about people and guys. Really, without us, right? Without all of us being in Bitcoin really doesn't matter. Bitcoin really is about people, right? And people making the decision to learn about Bitcoin and to understand why Bitcoin's qualities matter to us. Anyways, guys, look, this is going to wrap up this week's episode of Pleb Underground. But before we go, Susie, one last time, where can the viewers and listeners find you if they want to bug you?
Twitter.
Awesome. All right, we are going to put your Twitter. We're going to put your Twitter handle in the comments for the people who want to reach out. And Walter, you look at
Suze.
Or X. Oh God, I keep calling it
Twitter. No. Call it Twitter. X, please. It's just Elon. That's Elon's imagination. That's all that is. Okay, we don't all play into that illusion. Sorry, it's not X. It's always Twitter. Too bad, Elon. You wasted your money calling it X. You wasted your money getting the URLs changed. Sorry, not sorry. All right. Guys, that does it for us this week. Don't forget, like and subscribe. Check us out on our audio-only platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. If you want to stream a sats, head over to fountain.fm. Stream a sats through there. Use any app you want. Walton, how do we end this?
Fuckshitcoins.com. Please like and subscribe. We will see you next week.
More toxic than the most toxic